Hey, what's up, everybody? You know what time it is. Your boy Jeffrey L. Boney here for another edition of Real Talk Junkies Live. So glad that you joined us today. Make sure you share the link here on the Forward Times Facebook, Instagram apps. We're so excited to talk about some things that are important to you today. And we're celebrating 150 years this year of a very special park here in the greater Houston area in Houston, in historic Houston's Third Ward community. I'm talking about none other than Emancipation Park, bought for $800, which probably today the equivalent of about $18,000 when you think about inflation, by four formerly enslaved African people of African descent. I'm talking about none other than Reverend David Elias Dibble, Reverend John Henry Jack Yates, Richard Brock, and Richard Allen. All of these individuals came out of being enslaved. Of course, some of them were from the East Coast, came from Virginia and different other places, but they made their way here either because of their master, slave master at the time, moving to the Houston area because they didn't want to get out of slavery. Of course, when the Emancipation Proclamation hit and was signed into law by President Abraham Lincoln, a lot of them did not want to lose that free labor and, of course, continue to grow their wealth, their generational wealth, on the free labor and the backs of African Americans or people of African descent. So they moved to the South where they weren't honoring or acknowledging the Emancipation Proclamation as of yet. And of course, we know historically 2 years after, a little over 2 years after, you see that the South, through General Gordon Granger, received word on the shores of Galveston and then, of course, the surrounding areas across the greater Houston area in Texas that African Americans in this area had been made free through the Emancipation Proclamation. But right here in Houston, those four individuals who had set up shop, Fourth Ward, Freedmanstown, and First Ward, they came to Houston and made a tremendous impact. They have stories of their own. We'll get into that later. But here to talk about the historic Emancipation Park, celebrating 150 years, the significance of Third Ward, and the significance of Emancipation Park, the Third Ward, and the greater Houston area, Fourth Ward, etc., is none other than a history buff of his own, someone that is truly Third Ward, truly Houston, truly about our people, Mr. DeLoyd Parker, Shape Community Center, and of course, the chair of the Emancipation Park Conservancy and business entrepreneur, Mr. Ramon Manning. Y'all gentlemen, come on to Real Talk Junkies on the day. Come on, y'all. Let's go. Let's go. Welcome to Real Talk.
Thank you, Jeff.
All right, no problem. Thanks for being here. Brother DeLoyd.
Brother in the hood, and all I want to do is be understood.
All right, I know. Okay. That's right. All right. Well, let's talk about it, man. Of course, DeLoyd, you are Mr. Third Ward, Mr. Houston. You've been, how long has Shape been around?
Well, first of all, I'm not going to let you make my head big because I want you to understand that I'm part of a collective.
Right, I understand.
Okay, and always keep that in mind.
Yeah.
It's not about DeLoyd, it's about us collectively. See, I am because we are.
Yeah.
We are, therefore I am. There's no me without you, and there's no you without me because we're all part of a family of interdependence.
Well, let's talk about you being a part of the collective because the collective is collective because of you. Well, so I want to talk about how long you've been around with Shape.
Because of us, Shape has been around for over 53 years now.
53 years.
Actually, June 1st, 1969.
Wow.
53 years. You were a little boy then.
Yeah.
In fact, I think you were in middle school.
Well, actually, I wasn't born yet.
Oh, excuse me?
Yeah, I was born in 74.
Oh, you were. Then I might have been one of those who put diapers.
Were you around, Ramon?
I was not. I was born in 73.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, we weren't around that. We're not saying you're old.
No, it's okay. I'm just not an old fool.
All right,
right. There are two kinds of old people. Old people who think they know everything. If you know everything, what do you learn?
Nothing.
That's an old fool. Then there's old people who know they don't know everything, and their minds remain open, and they never stop learning.
Right.
That's an elder. So classify me, if you want to classify me, as an elder.
So 1872, four formerly enslaved African-American men with families came together collectively and pooled together their monies to acquire land. And that land happens to be where we now celebrate Emancipation Park. And they did it for a couple of reasons, primarily because to celebrate their newfound freedom and to celebrate through festivals and whatnot, Juneteenth. And so we're approaching Juneteenth, another Juneteenth, and Emancipation Park is celebrating 150 years. So you haven't been around for 150 years.
Close.
Brother DeLoyd. Brother DeLoyd. But talk about the significance.
Well, first of all, those men who engaged in what I call cooperative economics, because that's what it was. No one of them could have done it by himself or herself. No one person could have, because it probably wasn't simply their money. It was money that was accumulated. Others put their money together. They came up with that less than $1,000 to purchase the land. But before they came up with it, they had to come up with it. They had to believe something. You have to believe, know, and understand that land is invaluable. You cannot put a price on land. They understood that land was essential. You can free the person, but you don't free the land, you're in trouble. So they, in recognizing that, they got together, and we couldn't celebrate anything anywhere else because segregation was rampant, So what they did, they got together cooperatively, cooperative economics, and they had some what's called UNITY, some unity. So unity and cooperative economics and collective work and responsibility. They got together and pulled their resources and bought this property so that we could have a place. So Houston could have a place for us to be able to celebrate, and not just celebrate. People look at Emancipation Park as a place to celebrate and to play and have fun. It was more than that. It's a cultural center. It's an economic, it's more than art and culture. It's community. All that was involved in it. It's about family. And that's what they were concerned about, creating something that could be instrumental in helping to sustain families. And to this very day, that's what Shakedown embrace: family, community, and culture. And that's what Emancipation Park was about. So we salute those men, but remember, they did not do it by themselves. There were 4 men, but those 4 men didn't operate individually. They were part of a collective. And that collective included people who wanted freedom, not no assimilated freedom, not no imaginary freedom. They wanted real freedom. So that freedom you cannot have freedom, Brother Jeff, without having some land. You got to have some land. Oh boy, you got to have some land. And if we only knew in 3rd Ward, Houston, how important that was, or that is now, we wouldn't be giving up the land that we're giving up on this day to gentrification and to other forms of colonialism. I call it colonialism. We wouldn't be giving up the land to gentrification, to reverse mortgage, and all the other plots that are at foot to take our land from us. So we give our praise to our brothers who bought the land. We got to work hard to keep the land. I can purchase something today, but if I don't do what's necessary to keep it so I can have it for tomorrow, and my children, my grandchildren can have it, we in trouble.
And that's what the purpose of the Conservancy has become, right?
Absolutely.
You're the chair of the Emancipation Park Conservancy. Talk about the Conservancy, and he talked about gentrification taking over. And a lot of people, there's a lot of people in 3rd Ward have seen Emancipation Park celebrated there, talked about the festivals and different things that it was. And now they see all the shiny buildings and all of the enhancements. And so they're like, this ain't the Emancipation Park I know. They are taking over, whoever they are. And so, what do you have to say about what he shared and the role of the Conservancy?
Well, DeLoyd was spot on, Jeff. I think, the role of a conservancy is to maintain and to enhance and fund programming. We exist solely because, as you know, budgets get tight in municipalities and city government, and we exist to augment those budgetary line items. But we take it a step further. Our programming is intentional and it's deliberate, and it reflects the history and the cultural significance of the park and what it represents. As DeLoyd mentioned, Emancipation Park is not just a park. It's so much more. When you think about what these community leaders did in 1872, they had the sophistication and the fortitude to think about having this place be an anchor in a community, but to be used from a different utility. Most people think about parks through a recreational lens. It was used to service a community. People, got married there. DeLoyd got married at Emancipation Park. You have community organizing. You know, just a few short months ago, we retrofitted the recreational center into a dental clinic to give free cleanings, extractions.
You said
exams.
dental. Oh, wow.
Yeah. And the reason that we did that, Jeff, is as you look at 77004 and 77021, the two zip codes that are third ward, we understood at the Conservancy, in order for us to have programming, we have to have a healthy constituency to participate in the programming. And when we did our analysis, those two zip codes have a healthy dose of uninsured, and we can't deny or ignore the social determinants of health. You know, there's a serious health disparity in this community. So for us, it's really being intentional and authentic about what's happening at the park and not shying away from that. You know, this place is for everybody. However, you're going to get a healthy dose of cultural history, and we're going to use this as a tool to service the community.
So I want to come back to the Conservancy, but I want to talk to you, or have you talk about Emancipation Park, what it means to you. You wasn't around when it was purchased, and of course, you wasn't around when Shape was.
I was around. I was around to keep it alive.
Right, but what I'm saying, you know, so we weren't there, but now we're here. Looking back, just kind of in our lens, historically, what does that moment mean to you, to know that they actually acquired that land, and just thinking about what was going on?
You know, Jeff,
that's
a great question, because, you know, I've often thought about, you know, the mindset that a person has to have just coming out of being enslaved to think about something larger than themselves or their immediate family. I mean, that's powerful, right? Because I can honestly tell you, I would have been thinking, okay, how do I get my family in a better situation? How do I do something for my immediate family? But these community leaders were thinking about something much larger than themselves. And that just gives me goosebumps, because, I mean, they were light years ahead of themselves. And for them to understand that this property that they acquired had multiple utilities that were needed to build a community. I mean, they were geniuses. It was genius.
With no formal education.
With no formal education. And I will just tell you, man, I think operating in that mindset is powerful, because still to this day, when you think about everything that happened at Emancipation Park in the 1800s, it was really a building block and an anchor to build a community. Everything happened there. You know, I was just talking with DeLoyd a few weeks ago, you know, about, you know, some of the organizing that happened there, you know, back in the day. We still need that to this day, Jeff. You know, and now we have voting that takes place at Emancipation Park. You know, so I'm really, really proud of how we continue to use the space. And the board and myself, we've been saying this phrase about, you know, Emancipation Park is not just about recreation. It's about recreation and recreating the intended purpose of the founders and why they founded and operating in that vein.
Yeah. And I say about Emancipation Park the same thing I say about the vote. If you don't use it, you're going to lose it.
Amen.
So we have to use Emancipation Park, utilize whatever it has there for our development. You can't take my freedom from me. Freedom is not something that was given. Freedom is something that was fought for and won. That same thing is applicable to Emancipation Park. We have to fight to keep it, and we have to tell Ramon what we need to keep it. See, we pay the taxes, and even though somebody helped us to repair it and to strengthen it and to make it what it is now physically, it's up to us to keep the breath of Emancipation. Spirit of it. Like, yeah, I got married in Emancipation Park, but you know what? Mickey Leland and I and many others marched from Freedmanstown to Emancipation Park in support of the anti-apartheid movement. That's right. We wanted Mandela, because our freedom extended has to extend beyond the boundaries of America. We have to go all the way back to apartheid. So Mickey Leland, with his son on his shoulder, side to side, we marched from Freemanstown to Emancipation Park. The first Pan-African Cultural Festival, one of the first ones, was held at Emancipation Park. I got married at Emancipation Park. Our children at Shape played basketball at Emancipation Park. But you notice I mentioned that last, because that was just one of the things that took place there. It's not a basketball court. It's a cultural center, much bigger than that. And what's important to note is that nobody can't give you your freedom. I said that once, I'll say it again. We have to make Emancipation Park what we want it to be. And that's what we're going to do. We're not going to let a lot of things are happening around it, but that doesn't define what Emancipation Park is and what it's going to be. And I'm not just talking this stuff. I'm saying we have to fight to keep it what it needs to make it what it needs to be for us, for the people. Ain't no power like the power of the masses. And I think the people have the power to make it what it needs to be. And we have to work with Ramon and with all those others who are concerned about it being what it needs to be for us.
So let me ask you this, because DeLoyd has said a few things. Well, one thing multiple times, but he's saying some things, and I kind of want to delve into that because I'm hearing something, and I want to make sure I understand what you're saying. You kept saying fight for and ensure that it's happening. Are you of the belief that it's not happening, or that the community is not being heard? Or I'm just trying to understand.
I'm of the belief that we're not doing all we need to do to keep it to make it what it needs to be for the community.
And so what should we be doing?
We need to go to Ramon and tell Ramon what it is we need. Go to the mayor and tell him what we need to have over there. What's not over there now that needs to be over there. We need to tell. I can go over. We can exercise over there. We can have events over there. We can have celebrations over there. We can have classes over there. We can have meetings over there. We have protested at Emancipation Park. Mm-hmm. You know, what better place to protest for your liberation than an emancipated land? Mm-hmm. And Emancipation Park is the emancipated land, free land that we acquired, that we purchased, not just with the money that they came up with, but with the tears, sweat, and blood that we fought to make it happen. Because remember, people have this wrong perception of what slavery is. You don't give nobody that slavery. You take your freedom. Mm-hmm. You win your freedom. You know, you can give it up, but hey, you got to win your freedom. You got to secure your freedom. You got to stabilize your freedom. And I say that to be real specific with you, because I know that's what you're looking for. We want Emancipation Park to be the cultural center of our community, to be the center, the educational center, to be the recreational center, a combination of all those things. But we want to make sure that inclusive in that is participation. Mm-hmm. Hey, freedom is nothing without participation. And we got to activate that participation to the level that it needs to be at so we can have what we want and what we need. So I'm going to go to Ramon tomorrow, and next week, and tell them what it is we want. I mean, hey, man, we want a lot. There's a lot to be desired, but we got to make it happen.
Well, Ramon, that's what he's saying. I know you got. I mean, how long have you been the chair of the Conservancy?
I'm the founding chair.
Founding chair since
2015.
So 7 years.
Yes.
Either approaching or past 7 years. So for 7 years, what has the Conservancy done to ensure that the community's voice has been heard? Because I mean, I'm assuming that you all have reached out to the community and gotten feedback or
absolutely.
Whatnot.
Jeff, what's really important about what DeLoyd just said is the Conservancy has to be in this community 24/7. And it's just like the example I gave you around some of the programming we just finished wrapping up around health and wellness with the dental clinic. Understanding the ailments in this community and how we use this space to address and service those needs. Mm-hmm. Another point, we use our space for meal distribution during the holidays. This pandemic, man, it decimated, our community. When everybody else catches a cold, man, we catch pneumonia and die, and so for us, it's really understanding all of these issues that affect our community, but actually hearing from the community. Brother DeLoyd, we talk all the time, but it's not just him. It's all of the civic clubs, civic associations, other community organizations that tell us and educate us on what's happening in the Northern Third Ward, what's happening over in the bottoms. And so, and for us, how do we use this space to address those needs? And that's the body of our work.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, I'm thinking about, you know, because we talked about them coming together collaboratively and collectively to acquire the land and make it what it was and continues to be. But I think that there has to be some sort of synergy and collaboration going on with the community and, you know, through SHAPE or whatever groups, so that we can have one voice of what our needs and desires are. Because I think that, you know, if you got solo people operating in silos saying, well, I want this or I want that, I think that sometimes it could get lost in translation.
Sometimes it does get lost in translation.
Right.
Just like we needed those elements or those aspects of the community to come together initially, we need those same elements to come together to maintain and to strengthen what we need futuristically. You know, we need that. I mean, I look at Brother Bill Milligan, and may he rest in peace. Bill Milligan was a fighter. Bill Milligan was a fighter. A lot of people don't mention his name, but I know what he did. Because the first event that we had, we would not have had Kwanzaa there the year we had Kwanzaa had it not been for Bill Milligan bringing it into the community. We had Kwanzaa, the largest Kwanzaa celebration that we've ever had, in the gym, in Emancipation. That's community. But we have to have engagement. We have to have participation. You have to listen to what the people are saying. You have to listen to what the people. Ramon cannot do it by himself. In fact, it wouldn't be done if he had to do it by himself. It wouldn't be the voice of the people. It has to be a collective. So we need to identify those actors or players in the community, the civic groups, the organizations, the businesses, the homeowners, the people in that community who represent us to be at the table.
Yeah. And you know what I find challenging, gentlemen, is the fact that, you know, you say you've been 7 years founding chair, and now we're talking about we need to go to SHAPE and tell SHAPE what we want. And my thing is we sometimes tend to be reactionary. I think that prior to the conservancy being put in place, those conversations should have been happening.
Of course.
And, you know, just like with SHAPE, you know, there have been moments and opportunities where the community needed to rise up for SHAPE in instances, but the community should have been supporting SHAPE and being there for SHAPE prior to any instances where there's a rallying cry. When people tend to, you know, threaten institutions that are in our community, we tend to respond. And then when you have people and entities that step up to the plate, then we question sometimes their motives, intentions, or whatever. And some of those, some of it could be legit.
Right.
But I think that if we have a proactive approach as to, like you say, what we want, how we want to see our institutions, historic institutions, whether it be Texas Southern, whether it be Yates, Wheatley, Booker T. Washington, Kashmir, or, you know, and we start hearing these conversations, they trying to close the school down. And it's like, oh, we need to step up. We need to get involved. We need to do something. We need to go to the council meetings or the school board meetings or the conservancy board. I think that we have to collectively, and I look at the Montgomery bus boycott and other movements, and I think about how, and you talked about the anti-apartheid efforts. And I know you all, I mean, you, Ada Edwards, Judon, and many others got involved and were proactive. And always on the front line, you know, when the cameras were on and when the cameras were off, mostly when the cameras were off.
We were there. I was there when Mandela was elected president.
Right.
I was an international observer.
Right.
So I was able to see the fruit of our labor.
But my point is, you all it was a remnant,
of course,
of you all who were consistent, had a plan of action, and organized, and then mobilized, and then executed.
Wasn't reactionary.
It wasn't reactionary. And I think that when we talk about Emancipation Park now celebrating 150 years, him and the Conservancy being around for 7 years, SHAPE being around for 53 years, and many other institutions like Forward Times celebrating 62 years this year. And we appreciate y'all's support, you know, because it takes money to do what we do. But we gotta support our institutions and care about them enough to get proactively involved from a collaboration standpoint, and even if it's a remnant of people, because I don't like sitting up here and listening to people in hindsight talk about what happened.
Yeah.
Jeff, let me just add to that. I think you just touched a very, very important point. We have to view each other as partners to achieve a common goal or objective. I think what happens is folks get in their silos and they get focused on their immediate strategy and goal and objective. And sometimes it's hard when you literally scraping and scrapping and trying to get by. You're trying to make it to the next month, make it to the next quarter, right? To do what you do on a day-to-day basis. It's hard to try to think about, how do I take a step back and look at the entire field and think through a partnership lens with institutions to accomplish a larger common goal. And for me, he just hit it. The Conservancy is not the answer to everything. But I think in the spirit of partnership and collaboration, we can be a key variable in that equation. And so for us, it's really about understanding the needs of the community, but how are we a willing partner and a tool and a vessel to solve a problem?
Yeah, and we have to recognize too that, I'm sure you all would agree with this, talk is cheap.
Absolutely.
What's important are our actions.
Yeah.
What are we doing to realize or actualize what we're talking about now? What are we doing? What's the formula?
Yeah.
What are the ingredients? What's the solution? And I tell people all the time, protest is wonderful, but protest void of a program is a joke. You got to have a program. So what is our program that spell out and give strength to what we're talking about?
Right.
Ramon, we can sit here and talk all this stuff, but what are we doing programmatically to actualize this?
Yeah.
And that's what I'm about.
Yeah.
And I say this sincerely, that's what I'm about. And oh boy, when I think about what has happened over the years, before Ramon got there, and I look at the little session that we had the other day, that conversation, and with Elder,
Jackie Bostic.
Elder Bostic. Oh, she's a powerful woman. She got a lot working for her. She raised some good, important points. But I say to you that, Jeff, we can talk until doomsday.
Yeah.
But unless our action spells out what we're saying, we're blowing in the wind.
Right.
Now, what we blowing in the wind, you can figure that out yourself. But unless our action,
it don't smell good.
You don't want to taste it.
Let me go back to something real quick, because we talk about collaborations and vision and proactiveness and execution. And I think let's go back to these four gentlemen. I'll start with, everybody talks about Jack Yates, which they should.
Yeah.
But all of these gentlemen were significant community, civic, political, business leaders in 1800, in the mid 1860s and beyond.
Yeah, Richard.
And I think let's talk about Reverend Dibble, David Elias Dibble. He was the first African-American ordained Methodist minister in the state of Texas. And he founded Trinity Methodist Episcopal Church. And through that church, there were significant things that took place through that church. He used his church not only as a means to empower,
it was a rallying place. It was
African, but also to empower them socially, politically, civically, and financially. And I think about how he was one of the founding financiers of the Olivewood Cemetery, where African Americans were eventually buried. He was also one of the founders of the Gregory Institutes, the Gregory School, that educated African American children in the city of Houston. Matter of fact, the first school to educate Black people in that. And so we're not talking about some small time folks. These are other institutions that were created to empower. It wasn't just Emancipation Park. Emancipation Park was significant, but these other institutions were significant as well. And I could go on and on and on, and I'll talk about some of those other people later. But let's just talk
But
about.
each of them brought something to the table.
Yes,
That's what's important.
right.
One of them brought a
Not just talk.
one of them brought some spirituality to the table. You have to have some spirit. One of them brought the fiscal and the financial and the business management to the table. And
Politics to the table.
And they had to have some politics to the table.
Richard Allen was the first African American state legislator.
In
the state of Texas.
That's right. So he opened the door for a whole lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
So, but each of them brought something, that level of expertise to that table. But you know what's important? They have to be able to work together.
Yeah.
Because they didn't agree with everything the other said.
Right.
That's a major point of disagreement.
Right.
You know, I mean, I read about it. That's a major point.
Yeah.
But guess what? When it came about us, our liberation, our freedom, and
that was the common.
That was the common denominator.
Yeah.
So you don't have to agree with. I think Brother Kofi made a good point. We call it operational unity. Operational unity.
Yeah.
We have to have some operational unity. Those things that we can come together on, work hard on, and be victorious in that work.
Yeah.
And that's what they were able to do.
Right.
And you may have something else to add to that, but I just saw those 4 men being powerful, but only as powerful as they were allowed to be. Remember?
Yeah.
They didn't do it by themselves.
And you know, I was reading up on the fact that this man, was a politician, actively engaged. He was a businessman. Built the first. Talking about Richard Allen.
Yeah.
Built the mayor's house, Houston at the time. Morris, I want to say it was John Morris, and he built the first bridge over the Buffalo Bayou waterway. He was skilled mechanic. He was skilled contractor and architect. And he actually was the architect for Antioch Missionary Baptist Church.
Yeah, he and those who worked with him, because you remember he didn't do all the drawings by himself. He had some folk working with him, to lay out that blueprint.
Right.
I just had to always put that in.
Right.
He was a powerful brother, knowledgeable brother. He accomplished a lot, but he didn't do it by himself.
Right.
We have to keep invoking that into the conversation, because if you don't, we go end up playing God.
Yeah, we got to work with each other, and we need other people.
Exactly.
But we can't diminish the impact and the significance of leaders. I mean, everybody's not going to step up and lead. Now, everybody's not going to step up and lead the way. You got to have some followers, because like I tell people all the time, man, if you think you're a leader and ain't nobody following you, just taking a long ass walk.
And everybody's not going to be allowed to step up and lead. Because the people allow you to lead.
They allow you to lead, but they have to see that leadership in you. They got to see your vision.
That's why they
got to see your passion, and your humility, your how you can help them get to where they're trying to go.
You catch it on, Jeff.
Yeah, I'm trying to, man. I'm trying. I ain't quite as seasoned as you, but I mean, I'm trying to get there.
Get rid of that word then.
Because
trying is always an excuse not to succeed.
I got you.
You got to just do it. And I think you're doing it, right?
Well, I'm doing my best, man.
Okay.
Richard Rock, the first Black alderman in Houston. We talk about the Gregory Institute, the Gregory School. We talk about other institutions, Hollywood Cemetery. You talk about Jack Yates helped start College Park Memorial Cemetery.
Yeah, that was College Park.
College Park, where he's buried.
Yeah,
an intern. I mean, so you got Olivewood, College Park. I'm talking about you got Gregory Institute, you got Emancipation Park, you got Antioch Missionary Baptist Church, Trinity Methodist Episcopal Church. I mean, I could go on and on and on about the significance of what these gentlemen did. A Black financial institution was began by one of these individuals. I'm talking about these gentlemen were visionaries coming. I want to reiterate. Coming out of being enslaved. One of the most inspiring and moving stories I heard in the midst of this, and quite a few of them were, you spoke about Miss Bostic, Jacqueline Bostic, who is the great granddaughter of John Henry Jack Yates. I had her on the show last, and she talked about the story, and I did a little bit more intensive research, how he was freed out of Virginia as an enslaved person of African descent. And because his wife, because actually, if you were enslaved, you were not legally allowed to read, and you were not legally allowed to marry.
Right.
And so she was on a different plantation. They had 11 kids together. I don't know how they did it, but they did it. They figured it out.
Proof is in the pudding.
The proof is in the pudding. But look, well, I know how they did it. But anyway, my point is they figured out a way, and because of the movement from East Coast to Texas to Harris County to continue the slave thing, he was taking the kids and the wife with him, the slave master. This man chose and begged and pleaded with his own slave master who freed him to go with his wife and kids and family to be re-enslaved, to be with family, to be with them. What level of commitment? I mean, think about that. Sacrifice. You free. Now, you could have been very selfish and be like, well, I'll see him when I see him, or I pray for him. But this man chose to, that's leadership.
But what he said is, I can't be free until they're free.
Yeah.
That's what
it's bigger than him.
Hey, I can't be free until you're free.
Yeah.
You hear what I'm saying? Because a lot of times we think that we've arrived when we got all those people that we left behind. So freedom is a constant thing. You don't just have it and you got it. It doesn't work like that. Freedom is something that you constantly fight to have. It's ongoing, Jeff. I'm serious. It's ongoing. To this very day, we're fighting for our freedom.
Yeah.
Until we realize that, and we are realizing it, we're going to be in trouble until we actually realize that our freedom is not something that I can't be free unless you're free, Jeff. We're going to be free together.
Yeah.
And get off that plantation at the same time. I'll go back and get you. And I'm talking about the mental plantation.
Right. And I think about going back to Jack Yates. He started a kindergarten school out of his church, and because he realized that the kids were needing to be educated, but also the parents. So they were bursting at the seams, and so ended up starting an actual K-12 school, which eventually became the first African-American high school in the Houston area, Booker T. Washington. So we're talking about foundational roots and vision and things that make Emancipation Park that much more rich to me historically. The fact that, this was just a culmination of things, because they did a lot of these things before purchasing
That's right.
Emancipation Park.
Yes.
Building wealth, bringing the community together. They were celebrating Juneteenth before they acquired that land.
Right.
So this was a way for them to do it in a more grand way.
Well, that's why I see me going to this brother right here, let him know that in that cultural center,
right,
we're going to pull together people and pull them together, bring them together, and give some additional meaning to Emancipation Park. In other words, there's a lot that we can do at that park. We can talk about our liberation. We can talk about what we need to do to keep our freedom. We could talk about and come up with a plan to do that. Just imagine, Jeff, us being in the cultural center, not just talking about culture, we're talking about liberation. Imagine us being in the culture center, not talking about liberation and culture, we're talking about complete and absolute freedom. Think about it. Think about us having the different civic groups, the culture groups, the businesses, Black businesses in the area, and all of them coming together and actually coming up with a plan that could be born out of that same building, that same park that we acquired years ago. So we got a lot. I got some ideas, and I'm gonna talk to this dude.
Yeah, well, I believe you are. I believe you are, and I know he's not opposed to that.
No, he can't be.
So there's an upcoming 150th celebration. Y'all are in the midst of it right now. Juneteenth is Sunday. Happens to fall on Father's Day this year, so it's
it also happened to fall on the day my mother and father got married.
Oh wow! So
my mother and father were married on June 19th in Portatur. You heard of Portatur?
No. Have you?
Some people call it Port Arthur.
Oh, Port. I ain't never heard it referred to as that.
They got married in Port Arthur.
Portatur.
That's a resort community.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Yeah, that sounded. I was like, I've never been there, but I have been to Port Arthur.
Hey, married June 19th and had 10 children, 7 boys and 3 girls, and they looking down on us right now, saying, "Keep on keeping on."
So y'all have some events
that
are forthcoming that the community is invited to for free. I know some of them were ticketed, and those tickets have kind of, it's a hot ticket. and you only had so many. But talk about what the Conservancy is doing to celebrate the 150th anniversary this year.
You know, Jeff, we all had some time to really think. Um, you know, this pandemic and all of its misery. I can honestly tell you from a personal testimony that one good thing that it did for me was it allowed me to just kind of be still and not be busy with normal stuff of the day, running to this meeting, you know, Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, you know, gymnastics, got to go here, got to go there.
Hold on, before you go there, I know I asked you a question, but I want, as you're talking about this, I want people to know who you are really, not just the chair of the Conservancy, but who is Ramon Manning and why you're doing what you do as you're telling this story.
Yeah, I'm gonna get there.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get there.
I just want to make sure I put that out.
Just walk with me.
Gotcha.
So, you know, for me, being on lockdown, sitting at home, you had a lot of time to really think, and you start seeing all of this stuff that's happening in our country. And we've been planning for the 150th for years. And after seeing all this crazy stuff happening in our country, you know, it really forced me to think about being more intentional about what you're doing, where you're spending your time, who you're spending your time with, the return on that investment. How are you going to make a difference while you're here and not just occupy space? Like, what's the deposit that you're making? And I think rent, service is the rent we pay for being on this earth. And during that time, Jeff, the board and myself really took a position of thinking about, in this celebratory moment, now that Juneteenth is a federal holiday and everybody's in celebration mode, how can we have some educational things paired with celebrating the 150th? And as DeLoyd mentioned earlier, you know, we've had a series of panel discussions. We had local healthcare CEOs over there just the other day talking about the social determinants of health and how COVID has disproportionately affected communities of color. As you know, health and wellness is one of our programmatic pillars. We also had social justice panel the other night with local Harris County Judge Dr. Howard Henderson from Texas Southern, PJ Floyd, George Floyd's brother, talking about policing and social justice in our community. And, you know, we had Secretary Rod Page, former U.S. Secretary of Education, and Dr. Alicia Crumpton-Young from, you know, my alma mater, Texas Southern, talking about education and the role that HBCUs need to play. So for us, it was really being intentional and deliberate about having a plethora of events that shine a light and highlight issues that are still plaguing our community, right? And then, you know, the culmination of all that is going into Saturday and Sunday, which everybody is looking forward to, is a 2-day free, open to the public concert series with everybody from, you know, a gospel lineup to Sheila E., Kool and the Gang, Frankie Beverly and Mays, the Isley Brothers. And it was important, Jeff, that we put a program together of this caliber to not only shine a light on 150 years, but also have some educational where people can kind of back and operate in the spirit of why and how this space was founded. You know, Jeff, just a little bit about me. You know, you and I know each other. We go way back. I grew up out of the Missouri area, you know, and every summer, Jeff, I would come in third ward and stay with my Aunt Ruby at 3319 Prospect. And she attended church right down the street at Jordan Grove. And I tell people all the time, I remember being a small child, leaving Jordan Grove, my Aunt Ruby taking me over to Emancipation Park to wear me out before we went home. Right. And then, so that was my exposure and my relationship to Emancipation Park. But being a proud graduate of Texas Southern University, my wife and I, she's also a proud graduate of Texas Southern. We live in Third Ward. We've been here since 2004 and seeing the change. And you know, I'm honored to be in this position, to be a custodian, to be a servant, and to serve alongside people like Miss Jackie Bostic. And he mentioned someone earlier on in the program that's near and dear to my heart, that I can honestly say, man, that's principally responsible for me doing what I'm doing, and that's Brother Bill Milligan. Bill was our founding board secretary, and just a wealth of information and knowledge. I could have a conversation with Bill about, hey man, what's the best way for me to approach this, and what do you think about this? And he said, man, sit down. Let me tell you what happened in 1960 something when the same thing popped up. Here's how you need to do this. You need to go over here and talk to so and so, then come back and talk to me, and then we'll do this. You know,
Right.
So for me, you know, Jeff, I'm honored to serve, man, but this is really personal. This is, and just to, you know, not to get all spiritual, but this has really been therapeutic for me. You know, coming out of this pandemic and seeing all this craziness that's happening in our country and the world, you know, to really throw yourself into something that has some real meaning and it's giving you purpose, right? And you honestly know that what you're doing, you're seeing a direct impact and a result, and it's helping people, you know. So for me, you know, man, this is extremely personal, and I'm just honored to be in this position to do what I'm doing, to be a servant and a custodian at Emancipation Park.
Yeah. So what do you do professionally?
So we just launched a fund. Private energy business, where we sold our book of business. And again, sitting at home doing those 2 years, looking back and being reflective and seeing the opportunity and not taking a wait and see approach, seeing all the chaos and the disruption and seeing that as an opportunity. So, you know, pray for me. You know, we just launched a fund. We'll be having the first close hopefully this fall, and acquiring some lower middle market companies, and with a buyout strategy. So I'm really, really excited about professionally what's happening to me and community.
Good. So, Brother DeLoyd, what's next for Shape? I know y'all, I mean, you know, and I want to say that you talk about property ownership, land ownership, right here in Third Ward. Shape is not only located in Third Ward, but Shape is located in 2 locations in Houston's Third Ward.
Make it short because I know we're out of time.
No, we ain't quite out of time, man, but you go ahead.
I live on Elgin. They call it Third Ward. I work at 3815 Live Oak and 3903 Alameda at Shape Center in Third Ward. I bank on the corner of Live Oak and Blodgett. That's in Third Ward. My son was born at Riverside Hospital on Ennis. That's in Third Ward. I live, I think I might already said where I live.
Mm-hmm.
On Elgin.
You didn't get the address though, but no,
I give it to you.
No.
Everybody drive down Elgin there, see that. Anyway, so I'm as Third Ward as you're gonna be, but Third Ward is an international community. I want you to understand that. Even though I talked about all that stuff happening in Third Ward, all of the institutions and the things I just mentioned, they might be in Third Ward, but they extend beyond, outside of Third Ward. Hey, why do you think everybody want to come to Third Ward? You got your park, Emancipation Park. You got that other Herman Park down the street. You got the zoo in Third Ward. You got Texas Southern University in Third Ward. You got the Medical Center in Third Ward. You got University of Houston, TSU. You got all this stuff in Third Ward. You don't have to leave Third Ward. Then you got a garden.
New HEB.
Hey, a new HEB. Then you got a garden, a TSU, that garden on Blodgett. Then you got Alabama Garden on Alabama. What else do you need? Oh, what else? You have downtown City Hall right down when we go to hurt somebody out of a protest. You got this. You got this. You got Alfreda's. You got all this stuff in Third Ward. You know,
Turkey leg.
I bet a brew in Third
Got
Ward.
the forward time.
But hey, that's how we know. Hey, that's how we know about all these other places.
Right.
Because of forward time.
Right.
You know, so I'm just blessed to be a member of Third Ward, to be here and do everything that we can possibly do to strengthen this community. Because guess what? Just because you see people walking their dogs who have a lighter pigmentation doesn't mean that they own Third Ward.
Hello.
Okay?
Say that again.
I say
for the people in the back.
Just because you see people walking their dog in Third Ward who might be of a European extraction, it's still our community.
I remember one evening about a year or so ago when things started changing a couple of years back, but about a year and a half ago, I remember this white lady was walking her dog, and it was late. It was like really late, and I said, "Well, hey, you be careful out here now." And she said, "Oh, I'll be fine." I said, "Okay, you still are in Third Ward now. I mean, I don't know what they sold you on Midtown or the medical, what do you call it? The museum district and all that." I said, "This still Third Ward, so please make sure you careful."
And you remember that sign? So signs had up, "My home is not for sale."
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, they call it Edo and all this type of stuff. I'm like, come on now, you gotta be.
But we, like I said, we got a interesting experience. I got 50-some children at Shape Center right now for our summer program.
Mm-hmm.
And they're engaging in a mini Third Ward in that center. We have the Capoeira Angola classes, we have Black History classes, we have the computer classes, we have computer coding, we have digital printing, all that's going on. Oh, we will open up our restaurant, reopen our restaurant because it was massively renovated.
Mm-hmm.
So I open up on the 17th of this week, this coming week, Friday.
Yes. And I just saw something in the news that happened with you all, some sort of a donation. What was that about?
Well, that was a donation of money. It came to help renovate our restaurant inside of Shape.
Right.
And also our new computer lab inside of Shape. So we have a computer lab.
And that was done by brother.
That was done with your tax dollars.
Oh, okay.
You call it county commissioners' dollars. But it's
that's what it was. It was
Rodney Ellis.
I saw that in the news.
He might have supported it, but it was more than Rodney. Rodney know about Shape. Hey, I spoke at Rodney's graduation ceremony at Worthing High School years ago.
Yeah.
We had that big fro.
So he owed you.
He owed the community.
He owed
the community.
Yeah.
But it was legitimate owing.
Yeah.
A legitimate owing.
Yeah.
I mean, you can owe the people. If you don't give them what they deserve to have, you don't give them what legally you can give them, then they don't need it.
Right.
But everything that he did was legitimate and legal, and we appreciate his gift and the work that he put in getting that for the community. And it wasn't for Mickey, because Mickey is the one that introduced me to Rodney.
Yeah.
Mickey Leland came by Shape Center. That's a whole nother story.
Yeah.
Okay, I ain't gonna go into that.
That's all right. That's all right. I know
story.
You're a wealth of knowledge and history. Like that's why I wanted you on. Brother Ramon, it was talked about earlier about community being involved with Emancipation Park, the Conservancy. How can they do that? How would you encourage the listeners and the people in the community to engage you all?
The first thing, come up to the park. Be present. As DeLoyd mentioned, I cringe when I hear people say, "Oh, that's not for us." If you don't get engaged and use it, you will lose it.
Mm-hmm.
Come up to the park. There's a full staff that's up there. Sit down, set an appointment, talk to somebody. Go on the website, give us a call, epconservancy.org. Give us a call, 713-528-1872. So it's really about us working collaboratively. Nobody has all the answers, right? But coming up there and in being engaged, being present. Every time we have something, show up, So for me, that's how, and be spirited and passionate about what you want to see happen.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have some concerns, voice those concerns.
Yes.
And you gotta have concerns. If you don't, they're perfect.
Correct.
And
And nobody's
Emancipation Park is
perfect.
not perfect.
Nobody's
You have
perfect.
concerns. Because if you don't say something, it didn't happen.
Correct.
My grandma said, "Closed mouth don't get fed."
Hey, she said, your grandmother's mother said the same thing. You know?
Absolutely.
So it's important
So
that
be present, show up, even
speak
if you don't have, if there's no program going on, just be at the park.
and speak
Come
out.
to the park and speak out. Take advantage of everything that's there.
Yeah,
And if you don't see something that you would like to take advantage of, speak up.
yeah. Say
You have
something.
to. You have
Yes.
to. I know I will.
You know, I was very moved by the. I think it was like a month long, or maybe almost close to 3 weeks. You all had the
Say their
traveling,
names.
say their names exhibit.
Yeah.
Trade of Truth, I think, was involved.
Bun B.
And Bun B, and that was very, very touching. A lot of people came out
Absolutely.
for that. We had the traveling exhibit of individuals who had been victims of police violence, as far as shootings and stuff like that, and their pictures and stories.
Mhm.
And for you all to do that, I thought was extremely, in good taste and the right time.
You know, Jeff, let me tell you something, man. That it had to be done, but I didn't feel good about it because, one of the things as I went through that exhibit multiple times, what I kept thinking about as I looked at all those faces? The missed opportunity on their contributions to their respective communities.
Mm.
The average age of those individuals that died or were killed was late 48, 49 years old.
Mm.
That's when you're in your prime from a contribution perspective. And I kept hearing about, oh, this is so tragic. Oh, this is terrible. But I kept thinking about, man, what missed opportunity these individuals could have contributed and touched somebody or some organization or institution in their community. And that still haunts me because people don't see value in individuals. Right. And I felt like how do we shine a light on these individuals are contributors to a community?
Yeah.
They're not just wandering souls that got murdered.
Mm-hmm. They had a life, a future, and
Absolutely.
potential. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Listen, we could talk for a long period of time. So, what's the website again and phone number? If people have questions about
www.epconservancy.org. Unfortunately, all of the tickets are sold out
for the
concerts
yeah.
for Saturday and Sunday. And listen, take it up with the fire marshal. They capped us out at a certain number that could actually be in the park. But we're going to do it again. And you can call us 713-528-1872. And we look forward to seeing everybody.
And remember, don't think that event is the only event.
Right.
Because
Amen.
if you don't have a ticket to that, there's going to be stuff going on all over. The Shrine is having something.
Yes.
Missouri City have our
Missouri
annual
City has
20, and it's the 20th
Hey,
year.
Acres
Missouri
Home,
City, Acres Home.
Galveston.
Hey,
Yeah.
I mean, hey, don't let Mays.
Juneteenth is just not limited to
don't let
that
Mays
space.
Correct.
and these people drag you. You're gonna have to be serious and support some of these other activities.
Right.
Yes.
But equally as important as you supporting those events is keeping the struggle alive.
Yeah.
Keeping the
The
struggle
spirit.
alive.
Mhm.
Keeping the spirit of the struggle alive. Because if you don't, all this celebration is fine.
Yeah.
You can have fun, sing, get crazy with Mays and everybody else. But what you do after that
Is what matters most.
is what keeps the struggle alive.
Absolutely.
You got work to do.
Yeah. Bro, the website for shape.org, epconservancy.org. And so, man, check out those websites, go visit them and support these great institutions, as was stated. We have Brother Ramon Manning, chair of the Emancipation Park Conservancy, DeLoyd Parker, wonderful founder of Shape Community Center, and of course, yours truly, Jeffrey L. Boney, Real Talk Junkies host. Make sure you guys check us out next week. Share the link. We'll be hollering at you next week, y'all. Peace.